Alright guys, Vol here. Last night I was invited around to my friend Phil's house, and you've seen many battle reports that I've taken at Phil's little man cave garage type thing here. Really love playing at this place because there's plenty of space around the table, obviously pretty good scenery and good company. Me and Phil went down to Wendy's for some burgers before the game, had a Baconator mushroom melt, it was awesome. And also checked out his new Flames of War stuff. He's got plenty of tanks ready to paint up, and after the Games Workshop drama, which we should say, Phil's been planning on getting into a lot more Flames of War. I've got into Warmer Hordes, as you guys know. But still got a Warhammer army, so we're cranking out Skaven against Empire. We were a random mission which happened to be Watchtower, and here we are. Now I've modified my army a little bit. I've basically gone for a sort of friendly sort of army, well, not so much a friendly army because it's quite a powerful army, but still, I've just added in some models which I don't normally get to take, like the Warpfire Throwers and the Doom Wheel, and I've got some more clan rats in there as well. Next image, Phil has got his regular Empire army, which he always continues to play. He's got the 30 Flagellants, 20 Great Swords, 5 Knights, 3 War Machines, plus a tank. He's got a couple of units of Pistoliers as well. He's also deployed his handgunners in the building. You can also see my sneaky gutter runners in the forest in the middle of the field. Next image, my left-hand flank, I've got the Doom Wield and the Helped Abomination. Now, I had to sort of about the deployment here. If the Helped Abomination ends the movement phase closer to the Doom Wheel than anything else, then the Doom Wheel may shoot at the Helped Abomination if you fail a leadership check. So the plan here is just to move them in 2 different directions and have the clan rats closer to the Doom Wheel at the end of the movement phase, but I'm sure you guys can appreciate that. Next image, just out in the far left behind this river, quite like the Gale Force 9 river terrain, so we've added that there. He's got these Pistoliers, and if you can vaguely see in the middle of the river, there are a couple of fords where you can cross if you are 5 models wide or less, is the rule we're playing here. So that's what's going on this flank. Next image, I begin the game because I've been the one who is not controlling the Watchtower. It's more like an Empire assault against the outlying kingdoms of the Empire, well, kingdoms. Outlying lands of the Empire, I should say, and 50 giant rats going in immediately against the what do you call it, the handgunners, but unfortunately not getting Death Frenzy off on them on the first turn, I believe. So this particular assault killed several handgunners, but of course he's stubborn in the tower, passed his check, and stuck around. Everything else generally moving forward as much as I can, especially the Warpfire Throwers, just getting into range to really burn a lot of Flagellants. Really looking forward to that, and the Helped Abomination rolling a massive 15 or 16 or something on 3 dice, just to scream all the way across the forest. Or down the on the left-hand side. So if we go to the next image that shows you the positioning, I've kept the Doom Wheel back so that if I fail the leadership check, which I didn't, it'll shoot the clan rats. But the so the Helped Abomination, his job really will be to mop up all of the War Machines, or any that the Gutter Runners do not kill, and then later on go through the forest and wipe out the Flagellants if they haven't been dealt with already by my main force. Next image, a bit of a shot of the top tower here. Quite like the sort of photography because you can almost see that the handgunners are on the level in terms of elevation with the Grey Seer and the Bell. But these guys are in trouble. They're having to fend off all the rats swarming through the building, windows and so forth. But they're doing a reasonable job of it so far. Next image, his Pistoliers, which actually are Outriders in terms of the models, but they are counting as Pistoliers, moving over to shoot their bullets at my really cool Doom Wheel. Love the model here, and I spent a lot of time painting it, but in the current environment, there aren't a lot of big monsters for it to shoot with this lightning, so you don't see them on the field very much, but I'm going to be taking this guy just for my fun games, because he's really cool. But of course, the Pistoliers failing to do a dent in this guy because of the high toughness. Next image, Phil moving forward with his tank. He attempts to fire the cannon at the Plague Furnace, but unfortunately doesn't manage to connect with it. He's moved everything else forward in terms of infantry. I was a little bit surprised to see that his Knight unit with the Arc Collector and the Wizard were behind the infantry, but he wants to play very conservative with them. Instead of using the Knights as a sort of hammer unit, he's using them as almost like a character bunk unit, which is a fair strategy, but I think at the end of the day, it's probably, especially with the Skaven not having many War Machines, a better move for him, I think, would have been to have added the characters to the infantry and moved the Knights around to do something more independent, shall we say. He's also got the Pistoliers in the bottom right, trying to shoot across the river, but not really killing anything. Next image, my second turn, I'm moving the gutter runners out of the forest all the way over next to the pistoliers and mopping them up with, sling shots, poison sling shots, I should say. It's like a tongue twister, especially doesn't help when I've been drinking wine. But the previous turn, I forgot to mention, I managed to eliminate the cannon with my poison shooting, so that was a bonus as well. He shot his cannon in his turn, not doing anything with it, so I was lucky to get off light there against the war machines. Next image, the Plague Furnace tried not to charge the tank. I didn't really want to do that, but I failed my Frenzy check, so I had to charge the tank, but I rolled high enough to connect with it. So that means the Furnace actually takes D6 strength 6 hits, unless there's been some errata that I haven't heard about, because when you charge a steam tank with something that causes impact hits, the unit that causes the impact hits also takes impact hits, because they're also sort of just ramming into it at such high velocity. Anyway, the giant rat's continuing to try and kill the guys in the tower. It's been unsuccessful so far, but I'm going to continue to hack at it. Next image, my magic phase. This is so awesome. The bell rings, and I get a result which means that all buildings within 24 inches are knocked down on a 4+ or a 5+ or something. I rolled high enough and the building collapsed. All of the handgunners took initiative tests, a couple of them died, and what you see here is the rubble of the tower. And Phil's collection of scenery is just so cool, because we had some like rubble on hand to just place there. So from now on, the objective is going to be to get as close to that rubble as possible, and these handgunners are in an extreme world of pain here, because they have got 50 giant rats swarming over their asses, and they will be overrun shortly. Even with flesh to stone, mind you, they've got the +2 toughness, but they've got nothing to stop them stop them from losing the static res combat type thing. So my bell just going off this game, we're crushing that building and also doing some damage to his war machines, I think, with D3 damage to every, in one of my other rolls, D3 damage to every unit with toughness 7 or greater, which is the steam tank as well, which is why a screaming bell is just really awesome against Empire with a steam tank and lots of war machines. Just unbelievably, surprisingly good in this matchup. Next image, the bell has tolled, and now it's time for the actual magic phase. The Grey Seer casts Irresistible Force, Dreaded 13th spell. I roll a 19 on 4 dice, just unbelievably high. I think I rolled a 6, a 6, a 5, and a 2 for my roll, and that wipes out the entire unit of Great Swords except for the champion, the Battle Standard Bearer, and his warrior priest. So just sickeningly powerful spell. It's just a silly ability, really, and that's all that he's left with here. So that's a bit of a game breaker right there. Next image, the gutter runners picking off the rest of the pistoliers here in short order with close range, ballistic skill 4, twin linked type stuff, multiple shots, I should say, with poison. Just nothing you can do. So we're going to go to the next photo. What I've got here is the Warpfire Thrower spitting a gout of flame over the flagellants, rolling reasonably high, but not quite high enough. I managed to roast 6 of them, so that was something. I mean, you've got to start somewhere with the flagellants. Phil is trying to cast Regrowth this game, and Regrowth is going to be worth its weight in gold now, especially on the Great Swords, but he has to get past my magic defense first, although I don't have a scroll, mind you. Next image, the tank down to 6 wounds, is it 9 wounds? Yeah, 9 wounds in this photo, but less wounds later on. But the giant rats have destroyed the handgunners, who are no longer occupying the building, so I get to overrun. I'll pursue them and run into the great swords here. But this photo was taken before we realized that I didn't quite get enough range, so I moved them back. The giant rats didn't actually make it into the great swords, so if you go to the next photo, here's where they actually ended up. Placed them right in front of the flagellants and the remainder of the great sword character bunker type thing here. So this is quite good. It means the flagellants will have to commit to combat. I've got Death Frenzy on this particular unit of giant rats, so I should be able to reduce the flagellants to a very low number before I mop them up with my clan rat reserves. Next image, this is what happens. The flagellants move in, martyring and killing a whole bunch of giant rats, but the giant rats also killing a whole bunch of them in return. So the combat continues without the giant rats dying. But I think I did lose Death Frenzy this turn, can't quite remember. But the combat continued at least, that's one thing I do recall. Next image, Phil trying to shoot with his outright pistoliers across the river at some of the slaves here, but just to no avail. He really needs to be getting these guys into a position where he can actually involve them in redirecting and more serious combats. And probably would have been even better to actually charge the slaves, to be honest. That way he gets a better chance of removing a unit. Next image, he's moved back as far as he can with the little great sword and 2 characters, and he's moved around past them with his knights, looking to perhaps countercharge, well, not so much countercharge, but charge in the flank of the plague furnace, which has actually done surprisingly well against the steam tank, especially with the help of the bell. I think I rolled the plague sensor, dropping it down and doing the artillery dice worth of hits, and I think I misfired and rolled a 6, meaning that I get a full round of combat again, which did even more wounds to it. So the progress on destroying the tank's going quite well. Of course, he's got Law of Life, so every spell cast means a wound back on the tank. Next image, an overview shot, doing pretty well here. I've got plenty of units in reserve on the left and the bell itself. So he's reformed the flagellants into a bit of a block, but after I've expended all of or spent all of the giant rats there, I'll have more slaves and clan rats to mop them up. I've also got the warp fire throwers, if necessary, if I get a free shot, and in the background the doom wheel and the abomination just taking care of us war machines. Next image, you get a bit of a close-up on that, the Abomination attacking the Hell Pit, so the Hellstorm volley gun, and destroying it. Before that happened, though, he did try and shoot at the Abomination, doing like 18 shots or something. Most of them missed, most of them failed to wound, and I regened many of them, so I only took like 1 wound from that big barrage, which was quite lucky. Next image, the Doom Wheel moving across and zapping at the mortar. I think I only rolled strength 2 when I tried shooting out here, so didn't do any damage, unfortunately. But next turn, maybe I'll be able to crush them. Next image, the flagellants dispose of the giant rats and continue into the unit of slaves here. So this gives me a turn to retaliate. Because he's pursuing and hitting the slaves at the end of his turn, I'll then be able to counterattack, possibly with a bell, or to cast Death Frenzy on the slaves before they roll their dice in combat. Next image, he's charged into the flank of the furnace with his knights and his arc collector. I've got very few plague monks left at this point, but the furnace is always going to be unbreakable, so at least I've kept this big block of points alive and stuck in one place for me to deal with later. Next image, though, the slaves charge into the flank of the arc collector. Pretty good situation for him because he can just challenge with the lector, but it does mean that he's got to do some damage, otherwise he's down by a charge, flank, and 3 ranks. So there's that as well. Hellpit Abomination moving much closer now that it's destroyed with the war machines too, so that's quite good. Next image, the slaves in fact break the knight unit, who flee away and outrun the slaves. So the combat featuring the tank against the furnace with no plague monks left continues. The slaves are not involved in combat, neither are the knights, so in his turn he'll be able to rally. But this is all that's left of his army, this and the flagellants up the back. Next image, the Abomination has been charged by the infantry. Phil knew the game was over at this point, so he just sent his guys in. So that was kind of funny. The Abomination, in its first run of combat, slaying the Battle Standard Bearer and the remaining champion, but the Warrior Priest stuck around and passed his break test. Next image, the tank continuing to attack against the, well, not do much attacks because I've wounded it so severely, but continuing to fight against the furnace. That's going to be a bit of a standoff until the end of the game, I think. But the pistol is crossing the river to shoot at the slaves. Next photo, the epic duel between the lone warrior priest and Hellpit Abomination. I think he managed to survive a round of combat here, for example. For instance, going to the next photo, you can see a bit of an alternative shot to the epic duel, but in the end, I managed to destroy him. So coming into a bit of a zoom out, I've got the victorious Screaming Bell gone to the ruins. Perhaps we'll rebuild the tower and put a bell at the top of it just to mark this occasion, but the Skaven have swarmed over the Empire and it looks to be a crushing defeat, even though his knights have rallied. If you go to the next photo, Phil's tried to convince me that when his warrior priest dies, he automatically turns into like a tiger tank from the Flames of War range. I decided to let him have that, but the Abomination succeeded in wrecking the tank. Penetrated his armor and rolled a 6 on the damage chart if you're playing 40k. And if you go to the next image, He charges me desperately with his knights and characters just for a laugh, but the Abomination manages to pass its stubborn check, and the Doom Wheel comes into the flank. So that pretty much ends the game there. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was pretty one-sided, I know, but some really good photography, some good times, and it's cool to crank out a nice game of Warhammer every so often. Catch you later.